Yes, guys, you know what time it is. It's your boy David at the Irish Hotspur, Ireland's #1 Spurs fan. And today we are bringing you your match review for today's 6-3 win over the K-League 11. We are joined by Jack, of course, and Adam William Cahill. But before we get into it, guys, do not forget to smash that like button. Get your super chats in. It is a great way to support the channel. It also jumps you ahead in the queue, guys, and we will get straight to it and have a good discussion. As you can see, I get my words confused. I'm that excited about Tottenham at the minute. And guys, feel free to smash that subscribe button. Jack, how are you keeping, my man?
Keep it pretty well, Dave. It's kind of nice, to have a game that, at certain stages we didn't make sense of. We probably all got to see one of our favorite players, play for a bit, and we're probably got a bit desperate, Dave. We're all kind of like itching our arms, just waiting, to see Harry Kane, bang in one in the side netting. We're all waiting, to see, players like Højbjerg return and whatnot. I know Ellie was. So it's just good to kind of, see the boys in the uniforms. Like you even said on Weird Time TV, Dave, like I saw in the title, to wear the sacred uniform again. It's just beautiful to see. So I'm keeping quite well.
Yeah, that jersey of ours, it's definitely sacred for sure. Adam, how are you keeping, my man?
Not too bad at all, mate. Like, it's been great. The fact that we've got football back in our lives again. It may be preseason, but my goodness, it's better than having nothing at all. That drought was painful, absolutely painful. So yeah, to get to see the boys out again, to see Sonny in his home country, and all the fans screaming his name, absolutely tremendous.
Nah, it is. It was absolutely brilliant to see. I mean, home away from home is what we described out there. And what we will be touching on today is, are you happy or disappointed with the performance? Sanchez, his performance. Eric Dier, a bit about his performance. Then the wing-back positions. When you look at it, do we still need to go back into the market and upgrade across that back line as well? We'll be talking about Gilmessi, Sarr, White, Kane and Son, R9 as well, and it was great to see Oliver Skipp back. So that's what we will be touching on today, guys, and we will just take a few comments in the chat and then we will get straight into it. Paddy Higgins says, just watching the game now, opinions are being formed. Well, Paddy, don't be afraid to put them in the chat, my man, and let us know what they are, brother. Big yourself up. Mick Hermalock says, good evening, Jack and Dave. Watch the highlights. They look good. Come on, you Spurs. A lot of positives to take from it, Mick. A lot of positives. Old Soul says, evening all. Watch the game on Spurs play while listening to you lads and overindulging in some gochujang barbecue chicken courtesy of the missus. Trying her hand at Korean cuisine. Loving life. Come on, you Spurs. Is that how you say that word, Jack?
Dave, I don't even know. I think we all can tell, though, that it probably just sounds delicious. I don't even know if you even need to say it out loud. It just looks delicious by the way it's even spelled on paper right there. And we all know, Dave, Old Soul, I think he probably eats almost like a 5-course Michelin star level meal almost every single day, at least at some stage. He probably actually, Dave, you couldn't even serve him like a fried egg or anything. He would just turn it away. The guy just eats tiramisu, from everything to Antonio Conte pizza. The guy's just, he said loving life, Dave. I mean, we all know Old Soul's loving life.
Oh, of course he is. He eats like a king. I mean, it's blueberry tart one day and banoffee by the next. I mean, it's unbelievable what he's having over there. Tottenham Gold says, wow, big up Dermatron. He says, wow, what a day, but for all the holy, can the Dier and Sanchez please go? Just go. I am sick to the backbone of them both. Get out. Big up Harry and Sonny. Big up Dermot, my man. Yeah, look, we'll touch on them. Some strong opinions. Some people saying, look, it's only preseason, but look, we'll wait and see. Spencer Arnold says, hello, everyone. Big up, Spencer, my man. Stevie Fraser says, big up the Harris and Flatcap Army. Come on, you Spurs. It's early days. Plenty to be positive about. Plenty. Exactly. Plenty to be positive about. Stevie Darkson G says, intro picture suggestions. Do not worry about this, by the way. There is one in the process. It should be ready for the start of the season, so we'll wait and see. But he wants Conte, the picture of Conte and Son doing the iconic celebration that was there the other day. That was absolutely, like Adam's displaying there, it was absolutely brilliant to see Conte and Son do it. That was iconic. Also, as much that he did first change him for Kulu, Bentancur, Cutie, Richarlison, and Basuma. Do not worry, Dark Sun G. It is being upgraded, my man. It is being updated.
I feel like we have to run it by Dark Sun G before it even gets approved. I feel like we have to run it by Dark Sunji before he even gets approved. You know, he might say, you know what, Jack, I think you need to add in the Emerson Flair moment, you know, just for yourself, you know, and things like that. So we're going to have to, it's almost, I mean, Adam's a director, you know, you pass it to the director, but then you pass it to Dark Sunji after that, you know, for final approval and final cut, you know, sort of edit privileges. So Dark Sunji, we're duly noting that. Kulu, Bentancur, Romero, Richarlison, Basuma, they all have to be in there, courtesy of the man.
Do not worry, it will be ready for the start of the season of Dark Sun G. We will not disappoint. I might even do an unveiling just for you, my man. Tala Ahmed, big up, brother. Good to see you in the house. By the way, Dark Sun G, did you get off work to watch the game, my man? Big yourself up. R Green 216 with that lovely badge beside his name, like Tala. Says evening chaps and everyone in the chat. Come on, you Spurs. Big up, my man. Josh Schmidt says, big up, lads. Come on, you Spurs. Big up, John. Good to see you. Mark says, no notification, YouTube messing about. Yeah, look, sometimes it can do that, Marky boy. Sometimes it can do that, but it's good to see you in the house, my man. Josh Schmidt says, apparently we're in for Kunde, according to the Mirror. I don't know how reliable they are. Yeah, nah, look, I wouldn't be taking my my sports news from the Mirror if I'm being honest, my man. It's a bit, yeah, I don't trust them. I don't trust them. Custom Spoons, absolutely love the name. Says, evening, chaps. Good to see Jack back.
Appreciate your
Big up, my man. With a name like that, you must be able to play the spoons. Big yourself up. Zoe's in the house as well. Big up, Zoe. Good to see you. John Fitzpatrick says the defense is the reason we ain't going to do anything this season. Look, I'm worried about that defense. I'm not going to lie, John. Finally, we agree on something, John. How are you and the kids, my man, and the missus? Big yourself up. Spencer Arnold says, yes, we do need a centre-back or a left centre-back. That are physically good and good in the air. Well, look, interesting thoughts there, my man. Big up King Huddle as well. I hope you are keeping well. Good to see you in the building, my man. Dark Zone G says, also, if White, Gil, and Sarr does well versus Sevilla, I think we should keep them for the FA Cup and Carabao Cup games. Richarlison's skills were really impressive too. Look, do you know what, Jack? I suppose we'll get into talking about No, look, Harvey White for me, Dark Sun G. I think the fact that he covers left wing back and centre midfield, I would much rather keep him over someone like Papa Matar Sarr. I think you can loan Papa Matar Sarr out for another year. Let's see how he gets on because he spent a lot of time out of that Mets team last season. He's physically ready, but look, I would loan him out and I'd rather give Harvey White the chance. He's been around the academy long enough. He's been on a couple of preseason tours, a couple of loans. For me, give the guy the opportunity. He's done well today. Gil, another impressive performance, which we will be touching on. Look, I wouldn't write him off. What I want to ask you guys out there, maybe you could put it in the chat. Could he be that creative midfielder if we keep him around? I think he could play there. If you look at the way he played today, dropping in, linking up the play,
through the middle.
I think he could. He absolutely loves it. And for me, I think it'd be definitely worth keeping him around for the FA Cup, Carabao Cup, especially the early rounds, my man. And Richarlison, on another day, he would have came out with 2 goals. I thought all around decent, my man. I'm very, very happy with him. And a couple of nice flicks could have came out with 2 goals. Not a bad display from the guy. And long may it continue. I think another day we'd be sitting here talking about what signings we got because he scored 2 goals. But big up Dark Sun G, brother.
Especially really Dark Sun G. I mean, he's been waiting for Harvey White, to come in, and he finally got to see,
a long time.
Big
he's
performance.
Been saying that a long time.
I think he's been saying it mostly before. I don't even, Dave, it feels like he's gone blue in the face how many times he's asked for Harvey White to at least even make the bench. And he finally was given that privilege in his own country as well. So Dark Sun G, big up, my man, for the Harvey White fan club, one of the leaders of it.
He's been saying it for a long time. Look, get him in there. I don't want to see Harry Winks. Get him in there. Well, Dark Sun G, he took his opportunity today, brother. And Dark Sun G also says it's nice to not see Lo Celso, Winks, Tanguy play, wear our new epic jersey and put out a terrible performance like they always do. Joe, once he is discharged, then we should go for him. Go Cho Yang equals red pepper paste.
Yeah.
Look, I'll let Jack or Adam touch on the second part. I don't know what's going on there, I'll be honest. But the first part for me, my man, look, I was thinking about this earlier. If we played this game last year with the players we had, we would have lost that game. We would have lost it. It's that simple. We would have lost it with the players we had. So I think the fact that we went on today was brilliant. Jack, do you know what Dark Sun G's on about in the second half?
I think Joe was that guy that scored, Dave, that big number 9, and he plays for that team that I believe represents the Army, sort of, in some. Yeah, and I think I even heard someone say, like, through some sort of commentary, that there's even some sort of rumor he might be headed to the Premier League or like to some sort of big European move. So he actually, was a decent player. He met Sanchez a few times, as well. Made Sanchez look kind of silly in the air as well as, on the ground. I really liked actually the looks of Cho, if you ask me, Dark Sunji. If that's the guy you're talking about, that kind of big number 9 that had that nice header, for the finish. I thought he actually looked pretty decent and actually could probably cut it, especially with how silly he was making Sanchez look.
Big up Dark Sunji, my man. Absolutely.
I could be wrong though. Maybe it's the wrong guy, but I do believe.
No, you're spot on.
I complimented him in the watch along, even Dave. I complimented him in the watch along. I was like, I kind of like this number 9.
Yeah. Joe was the one who scored the first goal. 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He was looking good, Dark Sunji.
He looked decent. He's a big boy as well. Big up Dark Sunji, brother. Really appreciate the support, my man. Really appreciate it. Top man. Top man. I'd say absolutely buzzing with Sonny scoring today. He scored a brace. Could have had a hat trick, Unfortunate, but Dark Sunji, I mean, what do you make of Son's performance? We're going to run through a quick few names and then we're going to crack on. Chris Agenbar, big yourself up. Eddie Ryan, Colavius, John Gerard Doran, Peter, Faz Radfar, good to see you in the house. Bodrul Mazid, Marlon Green as well. Craig Bowler, Amir Sardar, Shamu as well. Big yourselves up, guys. Big yourselves up. But look, Jack, over to you, my man. Take it away.
Yeah, we're going to start with just kind of the first question. And, maybe it's something easy for Adam, just kind of to warm up with. Did you leave this, 6-3 happy, disappointed, something in the middle? How were you feeling, after this game?
I was encouraged in general because at the end of the day, again, as I said before about, just being able to see the players back out on the pitch, like you can't, as much as it was a disappointment to have conceded as many as we did, you can't not be excited having seen Richarlison on the pitch and seeing the kind of, it wasn't even not being in one of those games where he has to really put on the shithousery and take it to, the Premier League sides that are just, they're a bit rougher, the tougher games to compete in. He was still drawing so many fouls. He drew more fouls than Lucas Moura did. And that's saying something, do you know what I mean? Because he's normally the guy that does that with his blistering pace. By the end of the match, Richarlison's shirt was green. You know what I mean? It wasn't white anymore. And that's how often he was going to ground and winning these opportunities. So it was amazing to see him on the pitch. Amazing to see him wear our number 9. So that was really encouraging. And obviously, look, as soon as Harry Kane and Heung-min Son came on the pitch, it was definitely game over because I don't care what qualifications you have. If you tell me that Heung-min Son and Harry Kane are not world class players, you are absolutely barking mad. The distinct difference when those two players came on the pitch, it was night and day. They are absolutely tremendous. 2 goals each, a brace each when they came on. Absolutely phenomenal. So
did you see that moment as well where our partner Nick, Lazy, he said as well, there's a moment where Harry Kane even played a pass deep into the box to Son, and he was convinced that Harry Kane never looked at Son once. Sure. He played that deep ball into the box. They almost have, they have the same mind, they're inside each other. They think the same way, they're almost like identical twins at this stage. They're thinking the same way.
Son said after the game that Harry is one of his best friends on and off the pitch. And Harry said that he probably spends as much time with Son as he does with his own wife. So like they really do have that, an incredible relationship with each other, which is an amazing thing to see. They don't seem to have any kind of rivalry in terms of who's going to get the most goals. They're willing to set each other up. They're willing to lift one another up in every conceivable way in every game, and as long as we've got the two of them in our front line, we're always going to be a threat up front. So as much as it was frustrating to see us concede 3 goals, the fact that we scored 6 and they got 2 each is just like, it was a display. It was one heck of a display. They had to put on a show. And they did, and so I think there's more. I feel there's more good to take away from it than negative, especially because some of our we only got 1 of our new players on the pitch today. Do you know what I mean? 4 players weren't there. Perisic not there. and then we had the two lads who were
situation.
Two lads had COVID. Yves Bissouma and Fraser Forster both have had COVID, have COVID presumably, and then Clement Lenglet isn't able to be there because of the visa situation. So we only had Richarlison, and not to mention Kulusevski. He wasn't there either. They made sure that they're resting him because he has a niggle in his calf. Hopefully they're able to work on that and it doesn't materialize into anything any worse. So I mean, given the fact that we weren't playing with every single conceivable A-lister we have on the team, I think we did a perfectly satisfactory job, especially with Sanchez playing out of position. So I am definitely way more enthusiastic about the performance than I am feeling the kind of a little bit of the bittersweetness of the goals we conceded.
Absolutely. Love that answer. And, a lot of encouragement there. Dave, before we get to Dark Sun G's, super chat, just quick, kind of, feelings after the game, leaving disappointed, excited, happy. I feel like you were leaving actually, mostly, pretty excited, except maybe one little kind of red flag.
Yeah, look, Jack, I actually think, I was very happy. Look, first of all, Tottenham are back. We win. That's the main thing at the end of the day. Like I said, we had the squad we had last season, we would have lost this game. And for me, I think there's a lot of positives to take from it in terms of going forward. We can clearly score goals, but I'm not going to be naive to the defensive frailties because I was banging on about them all last season, banging on about it all preseason. And for me, all of the offseason. For me, first game of preseason, they are still there. So I can't ignore them because it's not right. I get that it's first game of preseason, but they will cost us. The difference between us scraping Champions League and us getting in there handy was Eric Dier, was Sanchez and players like that last season. And for me, I can just see the same things happening. So I am worried defensively, but look, midfield going forward, I think we're absolutely stacked, not a problem. Very, very excited. Because look, at the end of the day, if you can score goals, you can always try and outscore teams. But yeah, it was great to see Tottenham back. It was great to see Kane and Son ready to go from minute one. I reckon I'm predicting big seasons for both of them. Great to see Skipp back. All around, a lot of positives, Jack.
Yeah, plenty of positives to take. You have to take plenty of positives. Dark Sun G says, I watched the game on my phone at work with my Galaxy buds. Yes, Cho, our future Korean talent that I was a fan of. Son and Kane, 10 out of 10 today. Watch out, Premier League. I think maybe he's even saying watch out Premier League for Cho, because I even heard Dark Sun G might even be headed to Wolves. Someone even said, maybe joining up with Wang Hee-chan, which would actually be pretty awesome if you ask me, because Wang Hee-chan, electric pace, and then with Cho, like kind of Dave was saying, a bit big and strong, kind of powerful in the air and whatnot, has kind of the Premier League, physical, attributes to completely make it. But yeah, Dave, he's answering your question. He was able to at least catch the game, while at work, but unfortunately, Dark Sun G, he couldn't actually, be able to, rub in that 6-3 in front of the out loud.
You should have pulled the Siki, Dark Sun G. You should have pulled the sick note. That's what I would have done. That's what you should have done, my man. Look, nothing will ever make me miss a Tottenham game. But look, at the end of the day, work is important, but I'm glad you can combine the two. Absolute top man. That's what I love. People who can't get off of games, but still find a way of watching them. I love that dedication.
He also said, like I said before, as long as we score, then even if we leak in goals, we can outscore teams with our talents in our midfield and forward lines, top 3 minimum plus 1 trophy minimum included. I'm Dark Sun G. That's what I'm kind of, hoping for. I think that's what probably anybody's ideal season would be, a top 3 and a trophy. I don't know if anybody could really ask for more than that. Maybe except Kuva, is basically asking for every trophy, given in the entire 22 years, what he's going for. He wants American Idol. He wants all of it tossed in. So maybe that's the only guy who wouldn't be satisfied, with top 3 and a trophy.
I can think of one more person who wouldn't be satisfied with top 3 and a trophy, and that's Antonio
he wants
Conte.
us to win, American Idol. He wants us to win, next top supermodel, all that sort of stuff. So, it's maybe, I don't know if we can do it. But in the case of, actually the talents that we do have up front and in the midfield, who knows? Maybe we do kind of just outscore teams and have this sort of kind of basketball-like, performance. Dark Sun G, I'm all for it. It's actually definitely for entertainment. And, I think plenty of fans, probably been asking for this from time to time. It's almost kind of similar to the Poch days, to be fair.
Yeah. Do you know what it is, Jack? You improve that back line. you close the gap on Liverpool and City, and you give yourself the best opportunity. You don't improve that back line. You're going to challenge, but you will fall. You will end up falling off. It's inevitable with that back line we have. So for me, it's kind of like, right, where's your ambitions now? It's clear to see that these two guys are still making the same mistakes they made last season. Where's your ambition? Look, I get the likes of Gavardiol, Bastoni aren't ready, but they're left-sided centre-backs. That's why we loan Langley. No excuse not to get me a proper centre-back in this club who loves defending. I mean, I want someone who preferably slide tackles their misses before they go to bed at night because they don't defend. That's what I would like. So go and get me one.
There you are, Dark Sun J. I think Kim Min Jae might be that sort of player, nicknamed the Monster. So there you are. Big up there, Dark Sun J. Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, Dave will take anybody at this state. But we are going to move on to the next question there. And, you know, it is kind of one that I think is on Dave's mind as well as on plenty of people's mind because the defense has kind of mentioned a few different times. But I am going to kind of maybe ask a bit of kind of a, I don't know, it could be a triggering question for some. It could be an excuse, you know, for some people. This is the excuse that they may have for Sanchez. You know, Adam, was he doomed to fail at left-sided center back? Are we judging him too harshly since he was put at left-sided center back? Or, you know, how did you feel about this? Because it really wasn't, you know, a glamorous performance, I think, from Sanchez.
It wasn't, but when I was doing the watch along with Sean Butler over on Spurs Talk Show, and when we were doing a kind of a rating partway through the match, I gave Sanchez a 5 out of 10, and the reason I gave him a 5 and not any worse than that is his progression was actually incredibly good, and in fact, at one point you saw Romero passing to Sanchez, both of them in the far third of the pitch, and it being offensive players. And Sanchez, if the keeper hadn't gotten to the shot, he would have put one in the back of the net. Like, it was at one point, it looked as though we were like every single one of the players on our pitch was going to be an offensive player, which was just it was insane to see. So he's able to do a shift a little bit going forward, and then I think that again, from where the defensive stuff is concerned, I do think that having him on the left side was. He was definitely doomed to fail because we know what he's like in terms of like if he has a little bit of a slip up, you know, he doesn't have the nickname Bambi on Ice for no reason. He has that ability to have that little bit of a slip up, and then he's got to go chasing himself. Now, that is exactly why we ended up conceding initially, because Sanchez did have a little bit of a howler in the middle of the pitch. Then he had to pick his ass up off the ground, go chasing after the ball again, and then when he's going in for what happened actually was he went in for a slide tackle that should have realistically have been a penalty. Like, I don't understand how K-League didn't get a penalty for what he did. So, I mean, you know, given that, we were very, very fortunate to get away with one on that. And it's all because he's got to go in with the wrong foot. You know what I mean? He's coming back. He should have been able to go in with his left for the slide tackle. He probably would have gotten the ball then. He didn't make contact with the ball whatsoever. We were very, very fortunate not to concede a penalty. So playing on that side definitely did not help him with that. Now, he shows so much promise at times. He really does. It's just when he has that lapse of concentration, all of a sudden he can be made an absolute fool of. And it's intensified when he's on that side of the pitch. So I mean, people will think I'm mad probably to give him even a 5 out of 10, but I think just offensively he did very well, and defensively he was playing with a handicap, which is
Dave.
Really
you know,
fair.
what I have written here, Dave, and it was Tequila 316. You know, during the watch along, he said, you know, he's gotten twisted before, Jack, by an NS Mira farmer. Why are you surprised? And kind of as much as I am asking the question, maybe he was doomed to fail. We are talking about a guy who almost at any level can't play left-sided center back, you know, by the looks of it. And if we saw him get twisted before by the NS Mira farmer, he certainly was going to get twisted by, I think, a Korean League all-star who we did see, you know, some of these guys might be headed to some big, big moves, you know, maybe to some European teams. So plenty of these guys are also, I think, mid-season as well. So, I mean, it was probably going to be a much worse case for Sanchez than even was against NS Mira.
Do you know what? For me, I think when it comes to Sanchez, I'll be honest, I think left-sided centre-back, whatever people want to make for him, it's all excuses at the end of the day for me. Absolute excuses. Look, we're picking off 6 games from last season. Out of how many? I hate to break it to people, but it was a 50-game season. Why are we picking out 6? You know what I mean? That guy has played well in 6 out of nearly 50 games. That's crap. The guy's been here 4 years. He's constantly let us down. The only thing that has shut me up about Dier and Sanchez is, okay, help me win a trophy. Instead of always leaking goals in the final and always leaking goals, help me win one for once. Help me win one. Everyone always looks at Kane and everybody else in the finals. What about our backlines? You know what I mean? And look, for me, when it comes to the Sanchez, I just don't rate him. He's been poor in the Europa Conference League. He's been poor in the Europa League. He's had a couple of good games in the Premier League and Champions League at times, but that's about it. 4 years and 42 million. It's too much. He's not good enough for me. He's too clumsy. He switches off. I can list you off now more mistakes he's made than he's had good games. That's embarrassing.
What do you make of the fact that people in the comments, Dave? People in the comments are saying that, like Craig Bowler here, that he put in a solid, shift, at right-sided center back, for those 7 games. He did put in a solid shift there. So, I mean, what can you say to that? Because maybe when you do have him in his sort of designated position, he can give you good games.
And he only has to play second fiddle. He only has to play. No one's saying put him in the first team.
We're looking at this wrong. The problem is with Sanchez is the consistency. It's the consistency. To go and win leagues, to go and win trophies, you need solid consistency. The guy is liable to mistakes. That mistake will come in a crucial Premier League game, in a crucial cup game. And that's when it all falls apart. Look, with Sanchez, we're hanging on to 6 good games he had last season. 3 at the start and 3 at the end. But no one wants to talk about the spell in the middle where he was atrocious. Yes, he may have scored 1 or 2 goals. But the guy, I call him spaghetti legs. Every time he turns, his legs get twisted up. He can't deal with balls over the top. He can't deal with going and meeting the ball with a header. He cannot play football. What is he actually really good at? We're looking at it all wrong by saying he's only here as a backup. Go and sign me a proper centre-back and make Dier backup and get him out. He doesn't have to be backup. He shouldn't be backup. A backup should not cost 42 million. A backup should cost you 10, 15 million like we pay for Rodin, not 42 million. I'm sorry. We signed this guy to be a starter. We signed this guy to replace Alderweireld or Jan Vertonghen. Since then, Dier has come back from the fucking moon to take a starting spot. Jan Vertonghen and Toby Alderweireld have gone. We've brought in Joe Rodin as well to try and compete with a starting spot. We've brought in Romero. Davies has come from left-sided centre-back to be a left centre-back. Look, if you're good enough, you can get away playing 1 or 2 games at left centre-back. If you're a good defender, if you're good on the ball, you will get away playing over that side for 1 or 2 games. I've grown up playing football all my life. I've seen guys with 2 right feet playing over on the left side, filling in, not a problem to them. At the end of the day, we're making excuses for this guys. Whether it's been right centre-back, or left centre-back. He's put in woeful performances. And I'm not going to sit here and big up 6 or 7 performances from the guy. I'm just not going to do it. I can foresee what's coming with this. We will go on. We'll start to have a very good season. It'll look promising. And then all of a sudden, mistakes will come in. I said it to people last season. It will happen with Sanchez. All of a sudden, finds himself out the team. But we also don't want to question. Not a starter under Pochettino. Not a starter under Jose Mourinho. Not a starter under Conte. 3 of the world's best managers. If he's not a starter underneath them, and they're the best managers we've had in here in a long time who could potentially get us trophies, but then if they don't think he's good enough, for me, he's not good enough. If they don't believe they can win trophies with him, but then I don't believe I can win trophies with him. It's that simple. I'm passionate about Sanchez.
Adam, any any quick thoughts on that? Is Sanchez a ticking time bomb? Is it okay to be a backup, ticking time bomb?
It's a completely fair assessment. It's a completely and utterly fair assessment. Dave is totally right in his opinions. The only thing that I would in any way kind of fight back on is just the price tag. I think at the end of the day, our second string players shouldn't be cheaper than our first string players. We don't need an A team and a B team. We've talked about this. We need squad depth. We need all of our players. We need to look at our bench and go, holy shit, those guys are as good as the guys who are on the pitch. So I agree that. So there's absolutely no argument from me in terms of like Sanchez. He's too much of a liability. Fine. If I don't disagree with that. I wouldn't mind trading any player for a better player. You know what I mean? You're never going to get. It doesn't make any sense to argue that point. So I would just say that like I don't think it's the position that we I think if you have Sanchez playing second fiddle to Romero on the right centre back position, I think we have bigger problems at the moment in the fact that we have nobody challenging Dier, because Rodon's going to be gone, Tanganga's going to be gone. There's nobody challenging Dier for the middle spot. I do think there's more pressing areas, because Romero is going to play, if there are 60 games in the season, Romero will play all of them if he's fit. Let's be honest, because like in the centre back positions, and with him being as young and a workhorse as he is, he'll play the vast majority of them, you know. So if Sanchez only comes on for 10, 15 games for the whole season, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world to focus then on getting, someone like a Bremer in to have the central centre back position filled, you know. So I agree, but it's sort of a balance thing of, yes, can we improve? Should we improve on Sanchez? Yes. Should we do it now? Maybe not. Maybe that's the next transfer window or next summer.
Yeah,
well,
definitely.
I just want to add as well, if Sanchez was so good, then how comes Romero was able to be out injured, Dier out injured, and everything else, but yet they still walk straight back into the team? And I remember everyone got onto my case, Jack. Let's not forget this. Everyone got onto my case when I said when Romero comes back fit, he walks straight into that team. And everyone was like, no, Dave, you're a lunatic. What you talking about? I'm like, look, just because Sanchez pops up with a header, I'm not going to sit there and get my party poppers out and put on the party hat and say, fuck me, what a player we've got. I'm not going to do it. At the end of the day, he's a liability at the back line. That's what he is. And everyone called me crazy when I said Romero walked straight back into the team. What are you on about? He has to earn his place. So I was like, look, with the current state of the squad, there's no earning a place. It's Romero's. He's world class. Sanchez isn't. And we have to also remember, if Dier goes out injured, where's Sanchez going to come in the middle? What are we going to do? Make an excuse to say, oh, no, you should be playing right centre-back. We've done this with Winks. I've heard it with Dele Alli. I've heard it with Ndombele. I've heard it with Lo Celso. A good player adapts. We've seen this with our signings. Let's not keep making these same mistakes as a fan base. Let's just call a spade a spade. At the end of the day, where I'm coming from is, I want to look, if Romero goes out injured, I don't want to be sitting there having feared, well, what performance is Sanchez going to give me? Because if we're being honest with ourselves, you don't know. He could give you a sublime game, but he could give you an absolute atrocious game. And for me, I want to look at it and say, okay, Romero's out injured. Is he going to be a huge miss? No, so-and-so. He's been good when he stepped in. He's been consistent. Get him in there. I want to feel like that if we have injuries or suspensions, that we can still get the win. We can still get the 3 points. And at the end of the day, that's what football's about. It's about winning. It's not about bringing in these players and nurturing them, you know, to see if they can do good at 24, 25 years of age. You either got it or you don't. And he doesn't have it. Let's call a spade and get him out.
Yeah, I mean, what I've had is that he looked better up front, you know, what that chance that Adam was talking about than he actually did defending the whole game. I think that's what we've noticed about Sanchez. He actually could decently maybe play as a backup striker, maybe, and, you know, a certain league, because the guy's pretty good in the air, seems more coordinated in the opposition box than he does in his own defensive box. So maybe that we're onto something there, Dave, what we noticed in the watch along. Dark Sun G saying, I love how Liverpool paid huge money for Nunez and he missed a very easy goal versus Man United. Laughed my ass off. I love how the Blues are aiming for Ake. I love how you also mentioned earlier we can relieve Skipp of pressure, something the Gooners do. Yeah, Dave, we were talking about that earlier, that we were actually putting too much pressure on Ollie Skipp, and we were actually doing something that the Gooners do in Bukayo Saka, because the Gooner fans, they seem to have no problem, you know, with relying on a 19-year-old or a 20-year-old, you know, to get them through every single game, and, you know, to rely on him mentally, to look at him as a leader, you know, on and off the pitch and all these things. It's almost like what we were doing to Skipp at a certain stage under the Nuno era. And it's actually nice to see now again that we kind of are, you know, moving away from that. And we are looking towards the actual seasoned pros and the actual veterans of the squad, you know, to look up to, because it was getting a bit scary that Skipp was seen as kind of the dependable, you know, sort of player, and, you know, the player that Spurs needed in order to win, you know, and things like that. It was a bit scary. And also, I must say, those Nunez sitters were quite hilarious. Dark Sun G. Liverpool honestly could not finish for their lives.
Nah, big up Dark Sun G. Look, I just didn't feel it was right that we were relying on Skipp in the centre midfield at such a young age. A big club doesn't act like that, you know. A big club dips him in and out, play, you know, makes him earn his spots, and I'm just glad we're at that point now. But like I said earlier, Skipp will learn an awful lot of Basuma in terms of ball carrying, an awful lot of Højbjerg in terms of tackling, and an awful lot of Bentancur in terms of passing and keeping possession. So he's got a good group around him now to learn off, and hopefully he can kick on to that next level. Small clubs rely on their youngsters and big themselves up over it, like Everton with Gordon, West Ham with Declan Rice. You know what I mean? Small clubs like that. We should never be in that position. We should always have experienced midfielders with young lads hoping to come through and push. If he's absolutely world class, by all means, go and do it. But Skipp's not at that level yet, so we should have that competition for the guy.
Yeah, absolutely, Dave. And just the other things as well. I mean, Sterling, and Ake, just basically taking Man City's rejects. Honestly, it's not going very well for the Blues. And Liverpool, like I said, Dark Sun G, the moment Mane left, they just started missing everything by the looks of it. So a bit scary, my man, a bit scary for your outlet. Hopefully, he's finding good excuses at this moment, because we found a way to knock in 6. Dark Sun G, I don't know maybe what their problem was, but I guess we'll figure it out. Big up, Dark Sun G. Appreciate the support, my man. Just to quickly, kind of talk about Eric Dier, because do you feel like, Adam, Dier really, I thought he had that fantastic strike, let's be honest, which was a sensational hit. And, I think Sonny said it was as good as Harry Kane's left foot, maybe not as good as his own left foot, but, as good as Harry Kane's left foot. And, it seemed okay in the beginning for Dier, but kind of similar to Sanchez. I wouldn't say nearly as bad. He had some moments of, getting kind of falling over, getting kind of shown the weight room, and not being very good in the air. Is that maybe because Sanchez was next to him? Is it because it's the preseason? I mean, what are your thoughts on Dier's performance?
I think that Dier, he does rely a little bit on the personal nous of the guys who are standing next to him. I think Dier is great at marshalling people, letting people know where they need to be in the back line, but he also needs to kind of make he can guide them, but he can't control them. And with Romero, you've got a solid you've got a solid center back who is going to absolutely boss everybody on the right hand side of the pitch. Whereas with Sanchez, I think playing where he was playing, I think Sanchez made Dier look bad, to be honest, because when you saw the first goal from Cho with the header, I think Dier had a little bit too much confidence in Sanchez to be able to do what needed to be done there, and wasn't really paying enough attention, so that when the ball came over, Sanchez didn't even bother his arse going for a header. The Cho and Sanchez's heads should have collided, because they should have both been going for that ball. And Sanchez just puts his knee up as though, he won't get it with the header, I'll just get it afterwards. And it's like, no, that's you've completely blown that, and we've got a ball in the back of the net now. And I think Dier, he's used to having Davis there. Davis, who is able to put in a shift and will put his body on the line. And we've seen that, time and time again in the latter half of last season. So I think that this, there are, as much as I think, Dier is I believe an amazing shot stopper. He will put his body on the line every time, and he's incredible at marshalling the back line. But he does need to have people who have their own concentration levels up, their own confidence, some things that Sanchez just doesn't have. And Dier's taken, he's going to take, he took the situation for granted, I think, which let him down in a big way. That being said, in the vast majority of the time when he had the ball, he was oozing confidence. Anytime any of our players on the pitch had the ball, the Korean players would rush them. As soon as the ball went back to Dier, all the Korean players just stopped and went, right, okay. They never rushed him. He just had it. It was like, this is mine. Back off. And nobody, and honest to God, if you watch it back, nobody ever rushed Dier. So he was kind of, he's just oozing that confidence, and he just had that gravitas. I think he knows that he's upped his game significantly. And that was what gave him the confidence to progress up the pitch to the degree that he beats a couple of players. And then what a bloody strike with his left peg. That was insane.
Rocket boots, we were calling him. We were calling him.
They're like you ask Højbjerg to do the same thing, he'll put that in the sky. You ask Bentancur to do the same thing, he'll put that in the sky. Dier smashes it in the back of the net exactly where it needed to go. I give him a solid 7 out of 10 for that game, even with some of the defensive, discrepancies or whatever.
And
exactly. So I think I still think the Dier for me. Although I would definitely, if we bought a Bremer steps in as the number one, central centre back easily. But I'm not. I'm considering that a year and a half ago, or a little less, I was saying that I don't want Dier anywhere near our stadium unless he's selling fish out of a van outside to the punters. Then I think that the fact that he stepped up to that huge degree, and I'm happy with him being in the side, is a testament to just how far he's come under Conte. I think that Dier had a pretty decent performance considering, and that goal was sensational.
Yeah, and to be fair, to that argument, a lot of people have sort of said that with Eric Dier he maybe needs just another sort of Romero quality like defender alongside him. And then he will really, probably not have these sort of kind of sketchy moments or these moments where he might look a bit silly. But Dave, what are your thoughts? Is it Dier's performance? He did look good in possession. And I know, maybe we didn't give him credit for that today, but he did have some sketchy moments defensively, but he did have good moments in possession. Does he just need someone else, alongside him to look good other than Sanchez?
Look, the thing is, in terms of in the possession, I mean, if you're not going to press me, I could stand on the ball all day and be good in possession. It's not hard to be good in possession when you're being asked to reduce your touches from 8 touches to 2. It's not hard to do. It's what you should have been doing last season. Look, for me with Dier, is he better than Sanchez? Yes, I think he's a lot better than Sanchez. Great goal, by the way. Marauding through the midfield, left foot, absolute brilliant strike. But again, it's still mistakes that Dier is making that's carrying over from last season. And it bugs me. Like that ball into the box. Look, he's in no man's land. And we've highlighted this time and time again on tactical breakdowns. A player that's supposedly such a leader doesn't allow this shit to keep happening. He's done it with Davies over the other side so many times last season with balls into the box. Look, Sanchez should have went and met that with his head. And like Adam said, he should have collided heads with that guy. If he's not going to get the ball, head the back of his head. That's what real defenders do. But with Dier, look, I think, okay, I'll give it to him. Good on the ball. Am I impressed defensively? No. And he's not a striker. He's not a midfielder. He's a defender. So I care about how he defends. And for me, he didn't do great today. He did not do great. Look, not only was he in no man's land for the cross, the goal that they scored on the edge of the box, he walked out to and turned his back, which is stuff I've seen him do against Brighton, which cost us a point. I've seen him do it against Ronaldo. You know what I mean? He keeps doing it. This guy loves turning his back. I don't know why. I don't understand it. I really don't. I used to run out with the baby maker on the line. Not a bother. Hit me there. I'll get winded. I'll get back up. Dier, I guess, doesn't like being winded. And again, there was another time where your man would dance through Sanchez and Sessegnon and dance by Dier. Dier's the last line of defense. What are you doing? You're the last line of defense.
That was almost a highlight reel, for that, player right there. He absolutely mixed the entire line.
And I'm not going to sit here and cradle the guy's bollocks. I'm not going to do it because for me, yes, he had a great season last season in terms of Eric Dier standards. But no one's out there comparing him to any of the other top centre-backs in the league because we'd be laughed at. Absolutely laughed at. And for me, look, good on the ball, but defensively can't. Three mad mistakes today defensively. Massive mistakes. And people are going to say, calm down, Dave. It's only first game of preseason. Well, what was the excuse when we were 34 games deep last season for him and Sanchez doing it? When Sanchez was playing when we were 17, 18 games deep into the season. My point is, we can sit here and laugh it off, or not laugh it off, but suggest that, it's first game of preseason. But there's no excuse when it keeps happening during the season, and it keeps happening. With Dier, again, he's prone to switching off. He is prone to switching off, and for me, I think he needs a bit of a kick up the ass. I just hope, my fear, that he hasn't got too comfortable. And again, Paddy, I get you saying it's just a preseason game. When we played Brighton 4 games into last season, was that preseason? No, it wasn't. When we played United 20-odd games into the season, was that preseason? No, it wasn't. When Sanchez was making the mistake 17, 18 games into the season, was that preseason? No. So let's stop dusting it down like it's a preseason issue and it's a fitness issue. It's not. It's an ability issue. It's an ability issue. That's what it is. Stop dressing it up as its first game of preseason when it's been there for their whole career.
Yeah, and to be fair, we couldn't say the same thing with Ben Davies. You just can't say the same thing with Ben Davies. Ben Davies was sort of flawless at one stage.
The thing is,
you couldn't point out any sort of mistakes on his end, and with Dier, you can't really say that sort of story where Ben Davies, we all know what isn't a world-class center back either. Maybe even, you can't really get exactly, a trophy even maybe with Ben Davies in the team, but he proved that he could be sort of flawless for the most part for the rest of the season. Like he was putting in, performances where we were looking at him as one of the best defenders actually in the back line, towards the end of the season. But as you're right, Dave, Dier can't really say the same thing.
But look, the thing is as well, I'm just being honest because I can foresee what's coming next season. I can foresee it. And the thing is, would you rather me evaluate it now or pretend I'm stumbling across it during the season and go, fuck me, boys, I've cracked it. It's Dier. He's the problem. Or would you rather me start addressing the issues I can see now? And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to address it now. I'm not going to wait till we're in the middle of the season and transfer window's closed to start barking out I need a centre back because there's no point. The window's closed. There's no point. You've got to address it now. And I want to double down on this. Stop passing it off as first game of preseason. This has happened their whole career at Tottenham, whether you're 15 games, 30 games into the season, balls deep, it doesn't matter. They make the mistakes. Let's stop pretending it's a preseason issue. I'm sorry, but I don't want... Good man, Jerome, just quickly. I want to win something this year. If you're sitting there and you're Antonio Conte, are you happy with Dier and Sanchez as your options? Come on. You're not. This guy managed Bastoni, Skriniar. You know what I mean? He's managed centre-backs at Italy, some of the finest ever to grace the game. He's not sitting there wanting to go into this season with Dier and Sanchez. And I want to win trophies. And that's why I'm talking about it now. I'm fed up with them. Like, we can't say, oh, we've done the forward line in the midfield and the job's done. It's not done. Defense was our biggest issue for me, and I said this, Jack, coming into the summer. Defense is my biggest issue, and it still is, and it needs to be addressed.
Jerome is saying, well said, Dave. No excuses for both Sanchez and Dier. They both have to step up and remove those mistakes out of them, as it has been costing us. And I think Jerome is sort of coming in the same mindset here that, when you have, these sort of mistakes happening, it's not like, I see the sort of clean slate narrative. I understand the clean slate narrative, but with Sanchez and Dier, like, I feel like they've been here so long that we do sort of, know them kind of inside and out. Like, to probably have, sort of new revelations about these players, it would be pretty hard, to come by, because they have been here for so long under so many managers. So for them to somehow really just turn, the rock completely over, I think would be a bit of a stretch. And I think, Dave, you're probably well in your own right, with what's so much riding on the season. You're kind of worried, is Dier actually the one that you would kind of put that sort of pressure on? Is he the one that you expect, to handle, those games when Chelsea are just getting everything their way, when Liverpool, like Dark Sun G knows, is getting all the calls and everything? You need people that can really, hold their nerve, hold their mettle. And I think Eric Dier in a lot of cases is that guy, but there are so many times when there are sort of, concerning moments there. And I think Jerome is certainly coming from the same mistake. And he doesn't want to see, the mistakes that Dier has made, kind of happen in the middle of the season. And then we kind of can't do anything about it in the transfer market, like you said.
Yeah, it'd be too late. And look, for me, I just want to win things so badly. And I just hate this narrative that it's only the first pre-season. It's about fitness. Them mistakes are still going to happen if they're the fucking fittest people in the world. They're still going to happen because it comes down to up here and natural ability. And they just lack in that department. When we're put it this way, if we're in a big game against a Man City or a Liverpool, whether it's a crucial 3 points in the league, whether it's a crucial game in the cup, when the going gets really tough and the pressure is really on Tottenham, they will make that mistake. And I've seen it time and time again. I've 5, 6, Sanchez, 4 years to back me up. Dier, 7, 8 years to back me up. And I get every defender makes 3 or 4 mistakes, maybe a couple of costly errors across the season. But it was the time when Eric Dier was making mistakes. When the crunch was on, Brighton turning his back. When we're giving United a good run for the money, turning his back. And there's more across the season. West Ham, when he passed the ball straight out to them. You know what I mean? There's more and more of this stuff happening. And for me, I just want it to be improved. That's all I want. I want to give Conte the best chance to go and win us something. That's all I want. I want a defender that come in and limit the amount of mistakes they have. Look, we have to remember the season we went through under Jose, then we sacked him and brought in Mason, right? Remember how bad that defense was. Romero walks in instantly and shows everybody what a fucking defender is. Sanchez and Dier are nowhere near this guy's level. Absolutely nowhere near it. And for me, that's the level I want to get our backline to. I'm sorry for having ambition.
Jerome, I think, feels a very similar way, Dave, and certainly I know he brings that sort of energy, especially Jerome. I will continue to reference that monologue you had on the terrace, my man. Absolute legend. Appreciate the support, Jerome.
And I just want to, just one more thing. Sorry, Ian, one more thing. Did Sanchez make Dier look bad? If that's the case, get him gone. If one player's out of that back line and Dier looks that atrociously defensively, but then he's not that great, is he? Because if he was a good defender, guess what he does? He carries Sanchez through that game. He helps Sanchez through that game. Just like Romero's helped many of them out through games last season. So, if one player all of a sudden, it's one change and Davies is in there beside him, because he still had Romero on the other side, and he looks that bad, but then he can't be that good.
Big up, Ian. Happy birthday, my man. Good to see you in the chat, brother. Big up, Ian. Good to see you, my man. Dark Sun G saying, within 2 years, our midfield/forward class has changed. Sissoko, Winks and Tanguy, and Højbjerg and Lo Celso now at White, Skipp, Basuma, Bentancur, and I honestly think it gets pretty bigger from there, because who knows, might even add a big one in there with Papa Matasar if he actually impresses Dark Sun G. But we also have gone from Stevie and Lucas and Delhi to now Kane, Son, Hill, Lucas, Richarlison, and Kulu. Now that's the dawn time, says Dark Sun G, the director of football time. I mean, do you feel like, when looking at that team today, Adam, did you feel like Spurs just looked a lot stronger, felt a lot stronger? Did we have a bit more kind of, I don't know, like intimidation sort of factor with the names that we had on the team sheet?
I don't think that the names did us all that many favors, considering that 4 of the 5 players that we signed weren't there, yeah. And Kulusevski wasn't there either. So as Bentancur and Richarlison were the only players that really kind of, when you look at what Dark Sun G is saying
fair point.
So the things that made the difference for me were the players that we haven't been going on and on and on about, with the likes of White, Sarr, and Troy Parrott. They made a significant difference to see that what they were brought to the table, and also just the general fitness. Obviously, as we were saying, like it didn't look at any point as though our players were getting leggy the same way the Korean players were getting leggy. So I mean, that's something to be said for that. When we actually get our Kulusevski back and the other 4 new signings onto the pitch, then I think you're going to see something absolutely incredible. But to Dark Sun G's point, it's hard to say, the like on paper, yes, he's absolutely right. The difference is significant, but we haven't actually seen it yet, unfortunately, because the players haven't been on the pitch. But another thing that I'll say about that midfield as well, though, it was announced that Vidal has had his contract terminated at Inter Milan, and he was only talking to Conte a short while back, apparently, about coming to Spurs. Perhaps that's yet another player, and he'd be going on a free. That might be another player that we'll get that's of Conte's stock.
He's a bit of a wild one as well, Vidal. That'd be kind of funny having Romero and him in the same team. Like the older version of Romero, but in midfield, to be fair, that would be pretty crazy. The true box-to-box midfielder back in the day as well. That guy just ran on like batteries. Vidal could. Absolute engine. But I don't know, maybe a discussion for later. But I actually agree, with Adam here, where, I kind of didn't realize that maybe this team, didn't actually have all the signings and all the new inclusions. Just everyone either was sick or, for most part was gone. But when I saw R9, Dark Sun G, when I saw Richarlison just with that big number 9, on his kit, it just, I don't know, it just sent, kind of goosebumps through me, because we've been seeing for so many years that number 9 shirt, be filled by kind of useless strikers for a pretty long time. And to see someone like Richarlison, have the name above the number 9 for me, it just gave me kind of a bit of a special feeling, Dark Sun G. And I know it did for you as well. But Dave, I think, anything to touch on there?
Look, what I will say is that the complete turnaround in this club in terms of midfield and attack force is absolutely brilliant. Look, you look at that midfield, Sissoko, bang average, but people like them when defending them. Winks, bang average, people like them defending them. Tanguy, bang average. Well, no, not bang average, supremely talented, just a dickhead. Dele Alli, done good service in the Tottenham jersey, but people were still defending him for sitting on the sideline for 3 years. Same as Lo Celso. And this is my point. You've got to stop this stuff. At the end of the day, if we want to win trophies, we want the very best players here. We should never have been in a position where we're like, oh, what? Look, maybe we should play Tanguy here. Maybe we should play Lo Celso here. Maybe we should let Dele do whatever the fuck Dele wants to do. You know? And I'm glad that time is over. I'm glad that time is over. You look at a forward line now. Kane, Son, Kulu, Richarlison. Lucas had a good game today. You know, options. Players that you know are going to do the job. You look at our midfield. Basuma, Bentancur, Højbjerg, Skipp. You know, not a weak link in there. I
think to a certain extent you're looking at... Sorry, Dave. I think to a certain extent you're looking at the fact that we've said for so long that Spurs are the nice guys, and you know, Mourinho made the point of saying sometimes you have to be cons. I think that it even bleeds into the Spurs fandom, where like we're a little bit too nice, and we're like, oh, but I like this player, and to be honest, as a human being, I'm quite fascinated with Dele Alli, and I didn't really want him to leave, but I knew he had to leave because he's not doing anything for the team. So you can like a guy. I like Lucas Moura, but if I could trade up on him, I would. Do you know what I mean? Even though I absolutely adore Lucas Moura, but I can see where he's weak. So like the fans need to also get to the point where we're like, stop being romantic and poetic about players that we happen to have a taste for. Yeah, but I think we all are. But we have to be ruthless if we want to start winning silverware again, because we're now living in a world where oil money rules everything. And if we want to be the guys that step in and go, no, we're going to do things the old-fashioned way. We're going to spend the money that we earned through savvy business and you know and not through oil money. Then we also have to then take that well-earned money and go spend it on players that are going to completely revitalize the team, and say to the guys who did a stint for us, look, thank you, we appreciate it, but we're moving on to bigger and better things here, and you just can't come with us. And we've got to be honest about that.
It's Dark Sun G. You know, sometimes, you know, it's, you know, a hot girl summer. I think it's actually, you know, hot Don summer, you know, right now. It's actually the summer where Dons are made, you know, and I think it's, you know, Pratagy, once he gets the signings in, he's just going to put on, you know, a nice bit of music, you know, pour himself a glass of wine and, you know, just toast, you know, the beautiful squad that he's assembled. Big up, Dark Sun G, my man. We just wanted to say hello quickly to Graham. Dave, Graham is in the house. Good to see you, Graham. And then Jerome Davis saying everything David said was spot on. There's no excuse for this team for next season. It is get a trophy or die trying, because I am craving for a trophy. It has to be this season. Dave, Jerome is, you know, growing a bit impatient with the trophies, and he knows how much this season has building about it. So he wants to make sure that every single sort of kind of, you know, hole, every single kind of issue, every single kind of problem is sort of addressed. And, you know, I think he's just, you know, making sure that everything is kind of picture perfect before we go into the season. And I can't really blame you for that, as much as we might be, you know, thinking that sure, maybe Dier isn't, you know, the main problem. You still have to admit that, you know, there might be games when we might be losing a certain game or dropping points when we didn't want to, perhaps because Dier still might have those same mistakes in him. And I think Jerome might sort of feel the same way here, Dave.
100%. Look, as well, I don't want Antonio Conte out of here after next year. Look, I know there's another option with a year to extend, but he doesn't have to accept that. He can resign. I want to keep Antonio Conte around here for as long as possible. The guys brought the board, the fans, and the players all to one as a connection. I want to keep that. Why wouldn't you? Liverpool have had it for 5 years. Guardiola has had it for 5 years. Atletico Madrid have had it with Diego Simeone for how long? Why can't Tottenham Hotspur have something like that for once? And that's why I want to keep him. That's why I want to keep him. Look, defence wins you leagues. Alex Ferguson said it. One of the most successful ever manager in English football. Defence wins you leagues. And at the end of the day, have we won a league with Dier or Sanchez? No, we haven't. And for me, it's never going to happen either. I'll tell you, look, come back to me when they retire. And then said, you know what, Dave, you were right. They still never won a league. You called it. How did you call that? You know what I mean? Look, I'm just fed up with the mediocrity, Jack. Now that
wants to be completely Jerome just wants to be completely prepared. He just wants to make sure that we have every possible chance in winning it. And with Dier, he doesn't really feel like we have every possible chance of, you know, winning something. And I could sort of see where he's coming from. I'd like to put maybe a bit more faith in Dier if we get in another center back, to help him out in some way, or to kind of wake him up a bit, like you were kind of saying earlier, Dave, to kind of have someone be breathing down his shoulder, to, compete with him. I think that's really all he probably needs. But Jerome is just feeling like he wants to have every possible chance to get that trophy. And Dier, he's just not as sure with, and I think he's totally welcome to say that.
As well, no, 100%. And I agree with him. I fully agree with him. And like, here's another point. What's the point of going into the season not having a centre back or a right wing back in here when it's the only things we have left to do? We still have 45 days left in the transfer window, and we've made such great strides in it already. What's the point in not completing that? Go and complete it. Go and get it done.
I think they will do. I think they absolutely will do. But it's a fair, when thinking about it, we're not going to go and challenge.
Sorry, just quickly. If a centre back comes in, everyone that's telling me wrong, I want an apology.
I think the main thing to focus on when people went, like, to your point, Dave, if we are going to challenge a Liverpool or a Man City, we have to have players that can walk into their team. If our players can't walk into their team, we can't beat their team. Ultimately, we might beat them in a 1-to-1 situation, but we won't beat them over the long haul. And can Eric Dier get into either of those teams? Absolutely not. Would Sanchez get into either of those teams? Absolutely not. Romero would walk into either of those teams. Do you know what I mean? Son and Kane easily would walk into either of those teams. We have a number of players that you could say, do you know what? It's not as though Man City and Liverpool wouldn't take them. Whereas Dier isn't going anywhere near those teams, and neither is Sanchez. So if we definitely upgrading on them is a necessity.
Yeah,
absolutely. And Darks on G here saying, big up Jerome, my man. Absolutely love that, Jerome. Absolutely love that. Back in Dave there, he just wants to stand with Dave there, shoulder to shoulder, face them on. Darks on G says Sanchez is a bit better than Zuma. Mr. Fridge from Man U, and then White plus holding the Gooners. Those defenders are what cost top 4 for those lower clubs. That's what Man U. That's what you mean, right? Upgraded, needed. Difference we have is in Cudi Romero. Kind of an interesting take there. Sanchez better than Zuma. I mean, I'd probably just rather have Sanchez and Zuma after what happened last season. Versus the Fridge, I don't think anybody would take the Fridge. You're absolutely right, Dark Sun G. And then, I would never take, what is it, Dave? The Love Island hero and Ben Scheidt. And then with Rob Holding there, he just kind of makes a good point. But still, Sanchez, is he really the guy that gets us to top 4? It's a good point, but Dark Sun G is just sort of pointing, and laughing at these other clubs because these other clubs have been relying on these guys to get.
But we're not trying to compete against West Ham, Man United, and Arsenal. We're trying to compete against Chelsea, Liverpool, and Manchester City. So if you compare us with their defenders, we're leagues behind.
What's your ambition? Finish ahead of West Ham, United, and Arsenal, so you can give them the fingers every summer, or do you want to go on and win something that so you can walk around and just don't talk to me? We won. What are you talking about? What do you want? At the end of the day. There's a reason why West Ham, Man United, and Gooners are there. Man United's poor recruitment brought in the Fridge. Supposedly unbelievable. You still have United fans to this day defending him. What has he done since he's gone there? Look at the decline of Man United. Arsenal, 2 defenders, crap. Zuma, a cat kicker. And at the end of the day, there's a reason why he's not at Chelsea anymore and he's at West Ham. Because he wasn't good enough for Chelsea. What's your ambition? You want to go and challenge the big boys, or do you want to sit here amongst these crap teams and just say, "Oh, we're better than you"?
Yeah, but to be fair, we actually have the Cudi Romero, and that's the one thing, Dark Sun G. And like you said, that is a top 4 defender, and that is even probably a top 3 defender that's going to win you trophies. A guy that's already won trophies with Argentina. Big up, Dark Sun G. Appreciate the support, my man. I think we can kind of move on to the youngsters. Kind of talk about some of the impressions that they sort of made. Harvey White, since we were going to talk about wingbacks anyway, but Harvey White actually had an interesting sort of performance. And based on today's performance, Adam, would you maybe keep him around? He had a little bit of a spell at left wingback. He was getting stuck in, had some good delivery from out there. He sort of looks like a center mid, but out on the wingback position, which means he kind of offers something a bit different. If you were to get ahead of yourself, could Harvey White maybe get a spot in the squad? He also has a precious homegrown, element as well.
From the performances overall today, even more so than the centre backs, I'm still massively worried about our wingers, and the reason being is that Perisic is the only one for me that's going to really do a shift and make himself make a statement this season from what we've got. Is Harvey White the answer to the winger question? I really, as much as he put in a great stint
Definitely
today,
not.
do you honestly want to put our hopes and dreams on Harvey White? Now, that sounds really awful. If Harvey White is listening, dude, I'm sorry. You were fucking awesome today. Okay? So like I'm not in any way trying to shit on the kid. The only thing I'm saying is he going to be the answer to our wing problems? No. So I think like as
would you keep him around given Sessegnon's injury issues? Could he sort of play third wing back, behind Perisic and Sessegnon?
I don't have an issue with him being around. For sure, but if does him being around mean that we take our eyes off going and signing a Stupinian, for the left and a I don't know whether we're going for Spence now or what on the right hand side, but you know what I mean? Like, is it gonna prevent us from doing what we need to do in terms of bringing in acquisitions for the wings with the wing back positions?
Mm-hmm.
If so, then I don't want him doing that because I don't believe Harvey White is going to be the next Harvey Elliott. You know what I mean? So I think that I'm the best thing I can say, and the only thing I can say is that today the guy did us proud, and he absolutely he wore the lily white with honor and put in a really great stint, and that he can be proud of. And I when I'm watching the training videos, if I see him there, I'll have a smile on my face. But is he the answer to the wing back question? He's certainly not.
Definitely. And, I kind of see your argument that, is he really actually someone that we could really expect to get any real performances from? Someone who could really challenge Sessegnon? I'm not really sure about that yet, but he does have that very precious sort of kind of homegrown spot. And, he was actually kind of interesting where he doesn't really offer any sort of pace or dynamism down that side, but he's a bit more technical, maybe a bit better on, sort of the ball in terms of maybe keeping possession and whatnot. Also has good delivery, as we know. So he could maybe be that sort of third option, considering Sessegnon does have a pretty rough, sort of injury history. And Perisic, I think we saw today, is someone we're desperate for in those wing back positions. And I don't know, Harvey White, I'd like to keep around. He just seems like a more useful, Harry Winks anyways. And I don't know, I kind of liked his performance, to be fair. Dave, before we move on to the other youngster, any thoughts on, Harvey White?
Yeah, I'll be short and sweet on Harvey White. Look, he's a player I've tracked through the youth systems. I really like him. Very comfortable on his left foot. I know he doesn't have the pace, Jack, like you're alluding to. Let's not pretend he does. He doesn't. But at the end of the day, we realize with Kulusevski, pace is not everything. As long as your brain works quicker than your feet, you're sorted. You know what I mean? You're well able to move the ball. And for me, he's technically sound. But I would keep him around, Jack. I think he deserves his chance. I think he will get an opportunity somewhere along the line because Sessegnon has his injury problems. They've been there for everyone to see over the last couple of years. So for me, if we're selling Reguilon and Sessegnon gets injured, you're left with Perisic. Who else do you have? So for me, I think because it's not like he's not going to play. He can still play for the under-23s and still train with the first team. You know what I mean? So we can nurture him, still bring him in for cup games and stuff like that. So for me, I would keep him around. I thought brilliant performance. He had one cross into the box, beautiful cross. Sessegnon had a couple, and one of them was a good cross. Harvey White's already more consistent crossing the ball than Sessegnon. So for me, I would keep him around.
Absolutely. And, yeah, I think he's just going to stick around, like Adam was saying. I think we'd be, kind of a bit getting ahead of ourselves to really expect big things from him. But, I think we should definitely, consider keeping him around. Dark Sun G says, no sentiment needed for big team mentality. City and Liverpool are the examples. Look what they did with Otamendi, Aguero, Origi, Lallana, Minamino, Shaqiri, David Silva, Jesus. Yeah, I mean, they've been absolutely brutal with some of these guys. We are going in that direction. One defender only. And Cudi Romero. I mean, that's the only one he seems right. I throw Ben Davies in there, Dark Sun G. The guy just didn't do anything wrong. So I think he, earned his spot enough. But it does show that, maybe we have more of a defending problem like David was alluding to, Dark Sun G. Perhaps we do have more of a defender problem. If you really are talking about real quality, top 3, top 4 sort of defender-like quality, Romero is the only one that screams, as the only one capable of fitting that bill. Ben Davies, maybe, but you'd be probably stretching yourself at least a bit. But he did have a great season. But Dark Sun G, you're right. I mean, I think even Adam said this. I think this is where Dark Sun G is getting the inspiration from. He was saying that, he doesn't think that big teams really have any sentiment towards these players. And it's something that Spurs are going to have to unlearn. Spurs fans are going to have to become less romantic about their players. I completely agree, Dark Sentry. Big up, my man.
He's spot on. He's spot on. And Jerome, Dark Song G, absolutely spot on. And look, if Liverpool and City can rotate their squad, we've got to learn to start doing that as well. We've got to cut this sentimentality stuff. It's not good for us. It's holding us back. It really is holding us back. We've just got to call a spade and spade. We want to see quality on the pitch. Look, there's no point in moaning about what's gone on for the last 2 years and then still tell me that Dier and Sanchez are good enough. Like they weren't a massive part of what was going on at the back. Under Jose Mourinho, they were absolutely atrocious in the back line. They've fared a bit better on their content, but not much better. So we have to cut this sentimentality and we have to look to improve. And it's only for the benefit of Tottenham Hotspur at the end of the day.
And Jerome saying Harvey White was sensational as a wingback, but let's see how he performs against Sevilla. Matasar looks promising, but we'll see how he performs in the Prem. I think we'll also just see how he performs, against Sevilla as well. I think Papa Matasar, which we'll get into later, he had some kind of mixed sort of bag, performance. But the one thing I would say about, Papa Matasar, Jerome, is that he really does not look like a 19-year-old with sort of his build and everything. The kid is just he's probably taller than Bentancur, it looked like it. And he also has kind of a real kind of like lankiness and kind of aggressiveness to him. Like the way he was closing down players, you could see him, kind of poking the ball away and kind of leading a counterattack. I kind of liked what he had to offer. I know he's still really, really raw, but I could see a spot in the squad for Papa Matasar, but we're going to have to still see. And we love to get ahead of ourselves, Jerome, as you know, my man. But when it comes to Harvey White, I think he did the best what he could with what minutes that he had. I think he had 16 minutes or something like that, on the pitch. He did plenty well with it. And I think that's what you have to applaud Harvey White for, is that he could come on, look a bit nervous. I thought Troy Parrott actually looked a bit nervous in particular when he came on. Harvey White, came on and, did whatever he could with what the minutes that he had. So Jerome, you can only applaud him for it, my man.
Yeah, he took the minutes, Harvey White. He took them. Fair play to the kid.
Big up, Jerome, my man. Big up. But we're going to talk about Papa Matasar. And, Adam, is Papa Matasar good enough to stick around in the squad next season? Can he play the Harry Winks role, essentially, which is the guy that comes on, for, the 80th minute, maybe when we're 2-0, 3-0 up, the guy that will start in, the early round, cup games of the Carabao, and things like that. Is Papa Matasar going to stick around to essentially play the Harry Winks role?
I doubt it. If we bring in we've already got 4 central midfielders and we only play 2 at a time. So we have enough to rotate. We have players that can come on. If you're playing, for example, if we happen to be playing a Bentancur and a Basuma, you can bring on Højbjerg or Skipp at any point and you're still, the squad is still savage. Why would you bring on the Papa Matasar? I'm sorry, but he's not on that level.
Maybe true.
So I would say that it would be nice to see him progress. There's so many great players coming out of Senegal at the moment, and he certainly looked like a prospect, although last season at Metz, they went down. They got relegated. He only played like 50% of the games. Didn't seem to have much of the manager didn't seem to have much confidence in him. So I think he needs to go out and preferably go to a championship team or go to a Notts Forest or something like that, and get game time there so he can get used to what English football is like and upgrade in that way. But if we were to in any way want a 5th central midfielder, which doesn't seem to make an awful lot of sense, you would only want one that could come on as a cam in a situation where if we're already a goal or 2 down and we all of a sudden need to get super offensive, I would love to have someone like a Tielemans who could come on and score goals from distance, hold up the ball really well, that kind of thing. So I don't see Papa Matasar as the answer to any midfield question other than who might we loan out this summer.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you there, that Dave, and maybe to Adam's point, is Papa Matasar worth keeping around then, after he makes that point? Because are there really minutes there for him? Because I think Adam made some good points there that, what role is he really playing? Maybe you want him to go to like a Nottingham Forest and then he can sort of, learn English as well as, be able to play regularly and given, some responsibilities, really young, as well. And you want him to, kind of develop. But is there a role in this team for him? Would you be disappointed if he didn't stick around?
No, look, I wouldn't be too disappointed, Jack. Look, I do think there is a role there. Look, when I was growing up watching football, even if you had 2 centre midfielders, you had 2 backups, but you also had 1 extra there. You always had 5 usually, and that's what it used to be. Look, for me, to Adam's point, it's not a major issue if you don't have a 5th. Let's be honest. There's more than enough cover there, 100%. But look, I would still see a bit of... Look, might not be the minutes the guy requires, but there would still be some sort of minutes there for him. But look, ultimately, I would probably loan him out, Jack. I'll be honest. I don't think he's the finished
English club, or does he have to go to an English club, Dave? Or can he get away with a Bundesliga or another Liga club?
Anywhere but France. That league is absolutely atrocious. Look, send him to Bundesliga, lower league, Premier League club. Put him somewhere where you're going to give the kid a good fighting chance. Put him in a league that's very competitive as well, not like that French shit. So for me, I would loan him out, Jack. I probably would. But if he stays, I do see him getting some minutes. Like say, Carabao Cup, FA Cup, might get minutes there. And plus, look, we have to remember, we need to carry as many players as we can. We've got Champions League, Premier League, FA Cup, League Cup. You go along in all them, which Conte wants to do. Talking about a 60-game season. So it'd be interesting to see what happens with him. But look, I think he will be loaned back out.
Everybody's probably favorite part of the show, the part where we talk about Gilmessi, hopefully not, for, hours and hours. Like, Dave and I want to be able to talk like Gilmessi, but, Gilmessi, he started and played 45 minutes today. Do you think Conte was satisfied with the Gilmessi cameo? And do you maybe think there was a reason why he started today? Adam, you're welcome to crush any of our spirits when it comes to our praise of the kid. But what are your thoughts, on, his performance? Is there any significance behind him sort of starting, today? What are your thoughts on, him playing off the right?
I don't see him being a part of Conte's team going forward. I really don't. Just not because there's no honesty. It's not because there's not talent there. It's just that it's not on the level that it needs to be. And also, he's still, the guys he was playing against today were all kind of just a little bit bigger than him. And he's still, the vast majority of the time he had the ball, it was wasteful. Not that he wasn't able to do some tricky stuff. Like we saw him, he is a flair player, and he was showing off at times. And like it was fun to see in the game that it was, but nothing really kind of came from anything that he did. Like, can you tell me a move that kind of led to
he assisted a goal. He assisted, didn't he?
He assisted that moon boots. He done
the link up with Dier.
Him and Eric Dier were doing that back and forth, the 1-2s.
Yeah, I would still say Dier. That was all Dier.
He didn't have Gil to pass it to, who dropped cleverly into his space to take the option. He doesn't get the strike off.
Sure. But I don't feel like there was enough there for me that, like, especially again, he's playing against players that are only a tiny bit bigger than him. As soon as he gets back into the Premier League, he's going to get absolutely bossed around by every big muscly prick that's that's.
You don't think he's not like quick enough and agile enough, to kind of skim by players? He can kind of just slip right through, maybe because he's so small and tiny, he can maybe be like Traore, just run a bit of baby oil on him, and then you wouldn't be able to catch him because he's so small.
We saw what happened to Matt Doherty playing against Aston Villa. If Bryan Gil played it against Aston Villa, he'd be dead. He would be dead. So, I mean, is there other teams like that as well who are also just as aggressive? Everton can be just as aggressive. And I just think Bryan Gil is going to get absolutely smashed around the place. And I think Conte knows that.
Interesting.
I'd like to think that he actually made a good impression on him. And I'll go as far to say, actually, that I actually think Bryan Gil maybe started for a reason because, Troy Parrott, maybe had a decent chance at starting. As well, Bryan Gil, he actually presses a lot more than I think people give him credit for. He is kind of a bit of just an annoying, sort of kind of, I don't know, Dave, I've described him as kind of like a bug, or like a fly where, I know he is, not the most robust sort of player, but he's just kind of constantly, kind of trying to poke the ball away from players, close them down. Him and Richarlison kind of look like nuisances, actually, when coming up against them and their sort of, press. And Gil did a really good job, actually, I feel like, at getting us out of, kind of deep positions. He often played that sort of one-touch pass, deep in our own half, to kind of get us going. And he had some really good times when he was also carrying the ball forward. He was coming through the middle. But Dave, we love to get our setup. We love to get ahead of ourselves when it comes to Gil. Do you feel like Conte was satisfied with that cameo, or do you think it maybe was just 45 minutes to show Real Sociedad or Marseille, how good he is or something?
No, look, what was reported out there that Conte was willing to give Gil a chance this preseason to see what he can offer. And for me, I don't think it's a coincidence that he started ahead of Troy Parrott along with Lucas and Richarlison. Because at the minute, right, you've got Lucas, you've got Richarlison, Kane, Son, Kulusevski. So you need one extra option there. And if we're not going to go out in the market and buy it, well, we have to already have it at the club. And for me, I think that's what he could be looking at Gil with. And I think he fitted in nicely there with Richarlison and Lucas Moura. I think he linked up well. Look, for me, I think, what Gil was a bit different. He wasn't going in behind, but he was dropping into spaces for them to play them 1-2s with him, for him to pick up the ball. I actually thought at times when he got on the ball and he did get turned, he sprayed the ball very well. I remember getting on the ball and spraying one out the left-hand side. And again, we pressed very high up in the first half. And he done a lot of that work.
Is there a role for Hill, like in the team? You know, is there like a certain position in this 25-man squad for him, you know, realistically?
For me, look, we're all crying out for a center attacking midfielder. Now, look, I take people's point on board. He's very lightweight. And that could be make or break for him in the Premier League. He might not be able to handle physicality. But let's not write him off. Modric was tiny. But Modric's first touch was so good, players couldn't get near him.
Didn't matter. Yeah.
And looking at Gil at times, he has that element to him. Bernardo Silva at City isn't the biggest player. You know, none of their players, some of their player wingers and that, they're not the biggest.
They're heavier,
players.
though. Both of them, Modric and Silva are heavier, in spite of being short, you know?
Not when Modric came to the first to the Premier League, he wasn't. You know, Modric was tiny. And again, the Premier League was a lot more physical back then than what it is now. The Premier League is some of the players are maybe a bit smaller, but back then the Premier League was a lot more bigger. But Modric could adapt to it. And if Gil is quality, if Gil is a good player, he will learn to adapt to it. If the physicality comes in and he knows it's coming, he can't handle it, well, then he's got to learn to get his first touch out his feet, you know, and already know where his next move is. A bit like what Modric had to do. So look, we'll wait and see what Gilmessi does. But I actually think he had a good game today, and I can't see why he wouldn't get more minutes against Sevilla, to be honest with you. I actually think he had a really good game. I thought he was very decent in the first half, in the 45 minutes he had.
Dark Sun G saying, remember, we have 5 subs now, so I feel we should keep Harvey White, Hill, Sarr until January, then loan them to an English club if they are lacking, in my opinion. Hill played better than before because he had better players around him. That was always the story, Dark Sun G. We felt like in some of those Europa Conference League games with Hill, was that he was making all the right passes, was doing all the sort of kind of right ideas. He was just playing with kind of no one of real, you know, kind of in same wavelength, I think, as Dave put it, just no one that could play at his sort of speed or, you know, his sort of kind of wavelength of football. And I think that's what, you know, made sort of that bad impression, you know, when we first saw him, you know, under the Nuno days. And I'd like to keep the faith that actually in a Conte system, as well as with around good and as well as intelligent sort of teammates, I think Bryan Gil could surprise a few people. He's sort of my guy that I'm backing the most, as I think plenty of people know on this channel. Dave and I do probably back this guy the most as maybe someone that Conte could maybe be a bit surprised by. But I don't know. I like this sort of solution. Maybe we do keep them until January, see where we are at that standpoint, because after January, that is when the games become thick and fast. And maybe you do kind of loan out these guys for 6 months, see what they can do.
We also have 3 more preseason games as well, in fairness, if we see how they are over the next 3 games.
This is what we have to do, Adam. We have to make the conclusions right away. Then, you know, we have to come back, you know, the next time and just say, you know what, I ate all my words. Dave, he's going to watch Eric Dier, you know, boast in 3 goals, you know, with his left foot again. And Dave's just going to hold his hands up and apologize. So it's just what we like to do. Get ahead of ourselves.
Move Dier back into midfield.
Let me move him up striker. Exactly.
Let me be clear when it comes to Dier and Sanchez and any player that I criticize at Tottenham. I hope they prove me wrong. I want them to prove me wrong. The players I've spoke about, which ones have proved me wrong?
No, Jerome is going to, don't get Jerome again. Jerome's going to come in here, Dave, right away. But Dark Sun G, my man, I'm hoping that, you know, at least Bryan Gil can somehow, you know, prove Conte wrong. With Papa Matasar, I feel like there's sort of a Harry Winks role, but do you give that to a 19-year-old like him when he does need that development? I don't know. I think Harvey White, he could potentially actually take maybe that Harry Winks world I'm talking about, because he actually is a homegrown kid from the academy and sort of might just be in the team for that reason alone, and maybe would play those minutes that might not seem very desirable, but sort of are there for somebody. And if he wants them, I think he'll probably take them. Big up, Dark Sun G.
Yeah, good point there, Jack, as well, about the homegrown. That could potentially sway Tottenham.
You just sometimes, like, it's the thing with Tanganga. Sometimes I feel like Tanganga might be relegated to sort of sticking in the squad for the homegrown reasons. And as much as the homegrown sort of quota, is, good to have, sometimes it kind of hurts, players' development, because they might get stuck at a club because they're being used, for the homegrown quota. And maybe it might actually hurt them at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But with Harvey White, I'd like to think that he'd do a better job with that homegrown spot than Harry Winks did. But Dark Sun G saying, in my opinion, Hill is better than Lo Celso. So Hill to take over Lo Celso's spot. That's actually a good point. Lo Celso and Hill, Lo Celso, I guess, yeah, you could probably say maybe a bit more weight there, but also someone that really didn't, have any real strength or anything. I guess he had a bit of tenacity, about him, but that's what the point I'm trying to make about with Bryan Gil too, is that he has a bit of tenacity about him. He sort of kind of comes in with a bit of aggression, but at least we know with Bryan Gil, he brings in a bit of dynamism, a bit of pace, can have, sort of that, ability to take it past his man with ease. With Lo Celso, it's just like we just didn't really know what we were getting, in certain days. We couldn't even know if he could get it 6 feet off the ground when actually hitting a ball in certain occasions.
No, 100%. Look, Lo Celso was atrocious. Thank God that shenanigans has ended.
But I think we're going to move on then to the next sort of kind of youngster here, and we're going to talk actually about Skipp's return. Dave, 6 months gone, for Skipp. Was it good to see him back, in your eyes? I felt like we were sort of missing him, but like we said before, we brought in the signings necessary to prove that, Skipp is sort of, someone that is sort of still for the future. He's going to play a huge role in the squad next season or for this upcoming season, but we were relying on him a lot last season, and we did actually somehow get away with, actually that big injury that he had for 6 months. And he actually was even carrying that injury, I believe, during the Nuno era as well. So the guy did a huge shift for us. But thoughts on seeing Skipp back?
Yeah, look, I'm just going to be quick because there's not much we can really say on Skipp. Look, great to see him back after 6 months. Hopefully now he can have an relatively injury-free campaign and really kick on from where he was at last season. In terms of his performance today, couple of nice tackles, couple of nice runs running through the midfield as well. So look, long may it continue. It's like he never left, Jack.
Like he never left that, Dave. I don't know what else I can add apart from the fact that, like I said, everybody, he was carrying that injury throughout the Nuno campaign. And then, once we kind of brought in Bentancur and once we kind of had, the establishments, it felt like Spurs didn't really want to risk, sort of bringing him back into, kind of into play, in case he risked that injury again, because it really seemed like a dangerous one for him that could kind of continue to reoccur. And hopefully, they kind of figured it out during that time period. And it's good to see Skippy back. Wearing the number 4 as well. Everybody loves to see it because Romero has now switched to the 17. Interesting sort of flip-flop there. Richarlison, the new R9, will be asked to lead the line on his own from time to time next season, Adam. What are your impressions on Richarlison's sort of preseason debut? Did you feel like he can actually lead the line on his own? Because that's what he was asked to do in the first 45 minutes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that there was plenty of skill on show there. And again, he's not playing with the rest. He wasn't even playing with the rest of our absolute top tier players necessarily. Do you know what I mean? Because he didn't have Kane or Son next to him. He didn't have Kulusevski next to him. He didn't have Basuma in the center of the park. We didn't have Perisic out on the left. So, so playing with essentially some of the players that weren't necessarily performing at their best until Conte showed up. He was a standout at the very beginning of the game. He's doing all that little bit of trickery. He's certainly buying fouls left, right, and center like a madman. Absolutely brilliant. It was unfortunate. Like, it would have been incredible to see him get a goal just to kind of cement the fact that it's like, look, this is what I can do. I'm here to make a statement. The only thing I'll say in any negative shape or form is you did very, very clearly see a distinct difference when Son and Kane came on. A very, very distinct difference, which means that as much as we can get all, kind of dreamy about Richarlison being a wonderful signing, and he's definitely a better signing for us than Gabriel Jesus is for Arsenal and Sterling is for Chelsea. Do you know what I mean? 100%, because we went to Everton, stole their best player, whereas the other two are just taking Man City's leftovers. So I'm incredibly excited about what he's capable of achieving, especially after he has a significant amount of time under his belt, getting the rub from these players. He's going to be learning from Kane. He's going to be learning from Son, as well as having all of the immense Brazilian talent that he has as it stands. So yeah, I think he's tremendous. Again, the only thing is, like, there is a very big distinction between our absolute A-list forwards and Richarlison, and then but he did stand out in the front three significantly, even with Lucas playing an incredibly good game as well.
Absolutely. Dave, I feel like what Richarlison, I don't really know what negatives you can really add, apart from the fact that there were maybe a few sloppy touches, maybe a few sloppy passes. I sort of kind of attributed that to being, sort of playing in front of 64,000 fans in your first ever preseason, kind of game. Just seemed like, kind of, not the easiest, sort of introduction. It's not a Colchester, it's not an Ipswich Town, or anything, that you're playing against at your own training ground. Like, I think, Richarlison actually did quite well, with maybe that sort of occasion. Like, there was a lot of hype, around the signing. He's coming into it, and it was a big occasion, and he looked really good, in certain moments. He had, like I said, maybe a sloppy 10 minutes, but from the most part, you see what he can bring that maybe someone like a Harry Kane sort of doesn't bring. I actually really agree with Adam. Once Harry Kane and Son came on, you saw the world-class players that they are and the difference they immediately make. But what I do like about Richarlison, Dave, is that he does bring something different, if you know what I mean.
No, 100%. I definitely agree with you. I do think he brings something different. And look, it was great to see him lead the line on his own, because that's what he will be asked to do at times next season, but also play with Kane and Son. And look, when I think about it, I mean, he could have really actually had a hat trick. He rounded the player and the keeper. Just took a heavy touch, so Emerson ended up getting onto the end of it and put it wide. That header he missed, I mean, look, he's up to full fitness, that's in. But also, let's not forget the ball Kane tried to bend round to him that ended up in the back of the net. Incredible run. If he doesn't make that run, he doesn't force the defender to go for the ball, it doesn't end up in the back of the net. So, and look, there was some good flicks there as well, some absolutely brilliant hold-up play, and he won us a lot of free kicks as well. So for me, look, I like Richarlison. I really do. I think on another day, Jack, he would have came out with 2-3 goals, and we'd be talking about a different performance from the guy. Look, with Richarlison, I will actually give him an excuse, unlike Sanchez and Davies or Sanchez and Dier, because this guy's never played for Tottenham. He rocked up literally the day we were flying out for preseason, and that's all he's had with Tottenham. And to come in and fit in with the like of Lucas and Gil, players that aren't really established first team players, and still lead a line better than what Vincent Janssen, Llorente, or Vinicius have ever done. For me, I think it's a win-win. I think you're going to see a lot more from this guy, and especially with this set piece coach. The amount of free kicks Richarlison picks up, will capitalize. We already capitalized on it today, by the way, with that set piece coach.
Assist for sure. And that lovely chest, and bring down that he had today, Dave, was absolutely glorious from that Hugo Lloris, goal, or I think it was that drop kick that he had over to the Richarlison. Just showed his bit of class there, the way he brought that down. And kind of last question of the evening here, lads. Kane and Son were firing today, which is exactly what we want to see. And, Adam did touch on this. The moment they came in, they just showed that, they can pick up on the same form that they left the season off with, and also just showed how world-class and how incredible they are. And they can just turn the game right around whenever you need them to. But also 64,000 fans in attendance for our first actual game in general of the season. The entire crowd was wearing, the kit. It looked like everybody was practically a Spurs fan in that crowd for the most part. What are your thoughts, maybe Adam, on, maybe this preseason being in Korea? It really is like a home away from home. It's just kind of insane that, we can do this in another country where it almost feels like it's similar sort of, just, I don't know, like attention and everything. It's just like, it's like the Olympics have sort of happened, like in Korea. It's insane that, we can do this. And I think we have like a very special, sort of preseason in comparison to other sort of teams. Like, what other team can really do this? And this is my last question, but what sort of other teams can really do this? Go to a country and sell out 64,000 like that.
Oh, absolutely. Speaking of the jerseys, I saw one of the Korean attendees wearing a Leeds jersey, which was strange. I don't understand what that was all about. That's so weird.
as well.
But no, look. In fairness, like, you can't. People can say whatever the hell they want, but Spurs are a big club. Spurs are a massive club. We're a huge draw
International
because
club. Yeah.
absolutely, we're a huge draw because of our history. We're a huge draw because of the players that we have. We're a huge draw because of, regardless of what anyone has to say about Enoch and all that, whatever, I won't get into it. But because of all the savvy business work that's gone on, we have an incredible stadium. We have incredible, training pitches. We have incredible, absolutely everything. We are a massive, massive club. We're a massive, massive draw. And then, Son obviously is an absolute superhero to the Korean people. So, the fact is there's got to be no bigger club in that country right now than Tottenham Hotspur, and we have Heung-min Son to thank for that, for all of the love that we get from the South Korean people, which is incredible. And that's another thing as well, like going over there, having all that flying that they've had to do. Richarlison has come from Brazil to England for a week, and then had to do another long haul flight all the way over to Korea, and he was still able to put on a show. These guys, they've gone through the mill where their bodies are concerned in terms of travel, and then had to do an insane training course, with the Marine and the Don pushing them to their absolute limits, and then they're doing it in the blistering Korean weather. I mean, like, it's supposed to be absolutely insane weather in this part of the world, Dave, in the coming days. Yeah. You're talking about something like 40-degree weather in the south of England this weekend coming, which is just nuts. And it's even hotter over in South Korea, and these lads are not used to that. You talk about like certain competitions in the past in terms of international competitions, the Euros and the World Cup, when they took place in countries where players who are not used to the weather couldn't stand the heat. England weren't able to perform in competitions where they had to go over and play in blistering heat. Do you know what I mean? And they're just not used to it. And for Spurs to be able to go and put in the stint that they put in today, under that intense pressure, they were lucky they had that little bit of rain, I suppose. But under that intense heat, after a training that they went through, after all the travel, like, we say what we want about the failings in certain areas of the performance today. The fact that they went out and did what they did today, we should be really, really impressed and proud of the lads. Can you imagine what they're going to be like when they're back on English soil? They're in their home stadium. They're in the perfect element that they're used to playing in. That team is going to be absolutely electric, and I can't wait to be there for the Wolves game on the 20th of August. Man, I'm going to be screaming my lungs out.
Come on. Love that, Adam. Absolute hype. What an answer. What an answer. Especially one of the final questions is out. Left it out with a bang there. Carlos H, Dave. Absolutely insane. And Carlos, I feel like I haven't seen you for a while. Maybe, then again, I've been gone for a week. So maybe, Carlos, you've been here this whole time. But Carlos, absolutely massive, my man. He said, I'm still not impressed. Maybe he means, you know what he means, Dave? The window? Is it the window? Is it, the performance? Where is Carlos here?
First, I thought he meant us. You guys. But no, Carlos, look, first of all, I'm absolutely, truly humbled, my man. I really appreciate the size of the donation, my man, especially in times with the inflation going on and everything else around the world. So, I mean, a massive, massive thank you. I really don't know what to say to you, my man. I'm not really good with these things, but just a massive thank you. But look, as far as not being impressed, look, I'm happy in terms of midfield and going forward. I'm not happy with the back line. I'm not happy with the free kick that Hugo Lloris let in. There's the positives outweigh the negatives, but the negatives are there, and that's the problem. And I'm still not impressed because we haven't done enough on that back line over this summer in terms of a centre-back. Maybe another a right wing back in here, but for me, and a centre-back is emergency, and I'm still not happy we haven't got it done. Now, it's a different story if they come out and say, look, we went after so-and-so and so-and-so, and we just can't get them this year, and we don't want to resort to 4th, 5th, 6th choice. That's why Sanchez is here. I can accept that, but come out and say it. Come out and say it when the window's done if we haven't got a centre-back in. Tell me that's the reason. But right now, Carlos, I'm impressed with a lot of things, but I'm very unimpressed with that back line, mainly Dier and Sanchez. But Carlos, you're an absolute top man, and he also says, I appreciate the love, but that was for the tie against for Liverpool. Legal problems.
Alrighty, well, Carlos, we're good to have you back, my man. We're good to have you back, and I'm not sure what happened against that tie against Liverpool, and hopefully, maybe it wasn't having anything to do with my man Højbjerg, missing that sitter, Carlos, because I love to defend him to death, and I probably at that day, was getting a bit of, bit of hate for, defending Højbjerg for missing that sitter, and I think you're probably well within your right to be disappointed that Spurs on 2 separate occasions didn't grab 3 points against Liverpool, my man. But Carlos, absolutely massive, brother. Absolutely massive, and hopefully you're keeping well, my man, and hopefully we kept you more on the streams these days as well, my man. Absolutely huge, brother. I don't even know what to say, but you're absolute legend. Big up, Carlos.
I'm truly humbled.
And it's good to have you back.
What a legend. And Carlos, my man, anytime you want to come on, if you want to come on a fan show, just reach out and let me know, my man. I mean, I'll send you the link.
Email in the description, my man.
What a legend.
Email's in the description, my man. Feel free to reach out to us. Dark Sun G saying Spurs' second home is in Korea because of Son and young Pyo Lee. Yeah, that's a very good point there. And but Dave, it really did feel like a second home. And like I'm trying to stress here, to the question, relayed back to you. Can really any other club do that? Can they go to another country and, almost act like it is just kind of like, coming home, again, feels like it was the Olympics, out there. And it almost feels like we were having it out at home. And it really was actually quite special to see that.
Yeah, Arsenal can go to South London. They'll probably get that welcome in as well, back where they belong. But look, let's ask Dark Sun G. Juventus were out there a couple of years back. What sort of welcome did they get? If Dark Sun G, if you could just put in the chat and let us know what sort of welcome Juve got. But look, you're talking about 64,000 sold out within 25 minutes. Traveling through the airport like the Beatles have arrived. Adulation every single place they go. Look at the content creators out there, the adulation they're getting, let alone the team. It's absolutely unbelievable, the scenes out there. Absolutely unbelievable. I'll be honest. I knew there was a decent following out there because of Son. I didn't realize quite how big and fanatical it was, and it's opened my eyes. And look, we've got a home away from home, and all I can say is thank you to all the South Korean people over there for embracing our team, embracing the traveling fans that went out there, embracing the content creators. And, really taking them on board and treating them like they're at home. And I'm sure they'll be appreciative. And hopefully Spurs will get back there because they fully deserve to see Tottenham out there again. So fair play to every single one of them out there. I really didn't realize how fanatical it was. It's huge. It's bigger than what I imagined.
And also, even just from the moment they've arrived, they've been met with those sort of crowds as well. So it's not even just the stadium. It's just been from the very beginning that they've arrived. And I bet even for the players, it's a reminder of how huge and how massive this club is, and sort of tells them, how important these sort of, performances, going into the season are going to be. That it's not just, the fans in the UK watching them. It's the fans around the world that are also watching them, like Dark Sun G at, 3 a.m., 4 a.m. And there's a lot of pressure, not only riding on them in England, but riding on them, around the world. And hopefully maybe this sort of preseason tour is kind of a healthy reminder of that, and kind of, a positive sort of way, I would say. But big up Dark Sun G.
Big up Dark Sun G. And Lee Young Pyo is what I used to call him. Look, he was all right. He was all right at the end of the day. He wasn't a bad player for Spurs. He wasn't that bad at all. Look, I think what ended his career, I actually think, if I'm thinking of the right guy, I think he was atrocious against Man United, I believe. And that sort of ended his career at Tottenham. If I'm thinking about the right guy, Dark Sun G, I think I am.
Well, there we are, everybody. That was the last question of the evening. We are going to keep going throughout this week. Of course, we're going to have another watch along coming, the next game for Sevilla. But we are going to kind of, start plugging, especially Adam, who's put in a really good shift today, everybody. We are going to put Adam's Twitter here to check it out. And I think maybe anything else that maybe Adam wants to plug. But Dark Sun G, answering your question, Dave said, Juventus got a big welcome because of Ronaldo. Afterwards, Ronaldo is known as kind of a scam and lost a huge fan base for not playing, even though he came. That was actually probably after their huge 100 million sort of kind of signing, of Ronaldo as well. And I guess, that was sort of, seen as a scam. And I guess the Koreans did not like that. And as they should, Dave, that is actually pretty horrible if that was the case, that they hyped up that signing only for him not even to play.
Well, yeah, it would piss me off. I mean, look, I don't think it's right that these clubs go out there to try and, to try and generate a fan base or go out there to the fan base, and the best players don't play. It's not right. At the end of the day, it's not like they can head down to the lane every second game for a home game and go and watch the team. These guys have to pay thousands just to get into England, let alone travel to the game, match day expenses, etc., etc. So I think it's only right that when these big teams go out there, they say to the big boys, you're playing, whether it's for half an hour or 45 minutes, it doesn't matter. You will make an appearance, especially at someone like Ronaldo's level, loved all around the world. Surely he could have requested to play 45 minutes at least. It's bad form, that. Very bad form. I don't blame
it. It is bad form. And yeah, they felt a bit betrayed. I think they, and honestly, we were never going to do that sort of thing, Dark Sunji, with Sonny and Kane. And I think you definitely knew that. And I bet they probably felt pretty satisfied with what they were given. And they're still going to probably play in Sevilla as well. So they have another opportunity to see them yet again. And they're not done there. But big up, my man. And that is actually disappointing. I never even knew that.
Yeah, no. I just knew Juventus were out there. I didn't know how it went. But Adam, my man, have you anything to plug before we head off this evening?
Well, once again, lads, thanks for having me on. I really, really appreciate it. It's always great talking to you. Seriously, I love this channel, and it's just it's a pleasure to be on here with you guys. Yeah, anyone who wants to know anything about me at all, like I'm probably most active on Instagram, to be honest. If you look up at Adam William Cahill on Instagram, and then I do post a lot of Spurs stuff on there, but predominantly, as a lot of people will know, I'm a filmmaker. I try to make really high quality Irish films, Irish genre films. So if anyone's interested in seeing what I get up to, my company is called Wild Stag Productions, and on the social media, it's at Wild Stag Media on all the social media machines. So you can check me out there.
Nah, brilliant. And everybody,
here's the Instagram for you, everybody. Here's the Instagram that Adam was talking about, and the
do
Twitter
get over and check it out.
See that.
Do get over and check it out, and do check out his movies that he's making as well. At the end of the day, I'm a firm believer if a Spurs fan is trying anything, you've got to back them just because they support Spurs. So get over there and watch the movies, and let them know what you think. Let them know what you think. That's what I say. But Jack, my man, where can people find you, lad?
They can find me over at flatcapeurotalk. I would just say check out the Benoit Badiashile vid, everybody. I really feel like we should, because we were kind of complaining a lot about center backs today. I think Dave, needs some sort of solution, somebody that, he could feel like he could trust. Perhaps Benoit Badiashile is that man. I'm actually even almost encouraging Dave, to watch that video just so he can maybe, ease a bit of, his kind of qualms with Dier after today. Maybe he sees something in Badiashile and, maybe gets a bit of hope. Maybe praise that Parachichi, cooks something nice up and, brings that guy in this summer. So that's what I would say. Check out the Badiashile bit.
Yeah, big up. Everybody do get over there. Get on to Flat Cap Your Talk, guys, and smash the subscribe and watch some of the videos. Look, there's a few centre-back ones done. I'll be on it tonight. I'll be coming back tomorrow with names of who I want, for sure. And Tin Man 007, my man. Where were you earlier? I was crying out for someone like you earlier to back me, my man. Get in the comments, back me. I was saying it earlier about Dier and Sanchez. Look, I think Sanchez is atrocious. Dier is a level above atrocious, so that's probably mediocre. Emerson, look, I thought was okay today. Again, like the end of last season, done some good, done some bad. And Cesc Young, I said it today, Tin Man 007. I've made a bold prediction. I've put my bollocks on the table. I don't think he's going to make it at Tottenham. I really don't. I still think he's acting a bit like... I still think the guy thinks he's 17. Me and Matty Hayes were actually having a very, very good debate on this earlier on, where I was saying, look, the guy has been, like we're making out, yeah, he's 22, he's a youngster, but he's been in around senior football, first-team football for 5 years, and I do not see the progression. I thought he looked better at 17, 18 for Fulham than what he does playing for us at 22. I think he's a shadow of what he was when he burst onto the scene. I think he's really average. I think he's very one-footed. It's very easy to show him onto his left foot. And most defenders, we've seen it last season, culpable defenders in the Premier League, showed him onto his right, put it in the box because he can't do it. He overhit crosses, underhit crosses, couldn't get it by the first man. Very, very average. Look, I could not agree more with you, Tin Man 007. Centre-back, if this game highlighted anything, it's getting in a centre-back. It's the necessity and the need to improve on centre-back. I don't want to hear any more about Dier had a good season last season. Great. What, we're just not going to talk about the other 6 he had before that? Is that gone? You know what I mean? Do you just wave your magic wand and that's gone? 1 season out of 8, not good enough in my books. Sanchez, Not good enough. And I agree with you. I think we really need to finish doing the job in this market. There's no point in going 80% of the way and not doing that final 20%. What's the point? What is the point? It's only going to piss off the fan base. It's only going to upset Conte along the line once these guys come in and start making mistakes. So, do it now. Let's do a one window, 100% for once. Let's get it done.
Love that. Tin Man, just go back to when, Jerome came into the conversation, you would see him backing him up as well. Tin Man, you'll definitely get, plenty of that from David, especially earlier in the stream. But pretty much in the beginning of the stream, we sort of were talking about Sanchez and Dier, and I'm pretty sure you'll enjoy a lot of that, Tin Man. But appreciate you tuning in as well, brother. And honestly, love that he's still defending him to this day. This was actually a much more heated subject I really thought it would be. And I love that people are speaking with their chest about it, especially Tin Man, Jerome, as well as David today, stick their necks out. Love to see it. Love to see it.
Adam speaking with his chest as well. I love that. May not be what I want to hear, but he spoke his opinion with his chest, and that's all you can ask.
I think plenty of people liked Adam's opinion. I think that's where I'm coming from. People really liked Adam's
Adam showed me up on my own channel. How dare you, Adam?
Exactly. That's Dark Sun G says this is why Neymar has a huge fan base in Korea after playing in Korea 1 month ago for Brazil with Richarlison. Ronaldo getting hated in Thailand and Australia for similar reasons. Expected he won't even show up. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of interesting, that, Ronaldo just never takes the preseason seriously and sort of kind of just, I don't know, kind of scams, a lot of sort of fans, out of being able to see probably one of the biggest icons, or I guess, I don't know, icons, but, one of the biggest players, in sort of kind of the game right now. And it is kind of a bit of a scam, to be fair. And with Neymar and Richarlison coming to Korea and, being able to show up there, it just shows that also, I don't know, the Korean fan base just in general, just massive football fans. So clearly just any sort of major player that goes there, they're going to show them the respect. If the players show the Korean fan base the respect they deserve, I think the Korean fan base will welcome in with open arms. And, it seems like someone like Ronaldo just couldn't really find it within himself to do that, where other players have, and then they'll be met with love and, hospitality. And that's kind of what you expect. It's a two-way street, when it comes to it. And I'm actually kind of disappointed in Ronaldo for that. It really is kind of ridiculous, especially those kind of, with how many fans showed up and everything. It's pretty absurd, actually, to be fair. It's a great opportunity to kind of sort of, just show that, you do care about the fans, far and wide.
Yeah, look, it's disgraceful in my opinion. If you're going to go out there and you're going to sell the tickets using Ronaldo's name, and then make sure the fucker plays at the end of the day. It's only fair. Tom Harris put in a comment. He went to see. He was saying about Harry Kane. He went to see them in America, I believe it was. What did he say? The MetLife Stadium. I think that's America, Jack. No.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not. And he said if Harry Kane wasn't playing, he would have been absolutely fuming. Thank God we've got nice, honest, down-to-earth stars, the likes of Kane's son, who are still humble, who still will go out there and they will want to play. Guarantee if Conte said, look, guys, I want to leave you at home because I want you to, work on your fitness, they would have begged to went out there. They would have absolutely begged. And that's the difference, Dark Sun G. Big up, my man.
Dave. Absolutely. Big up, my man. Big up, my man. And then he also says what we need is a center back that can defend and score. I've said this, Dark Sun G, that we are kind of, a team that struggles in the air, I think, in the back line. Dier, I don't really find him that great in the air. Davies is, I think, probably better than people give him credit for, but at the end of the day, he's only 6 foot. Romero actually has had some moments in the air that are a bit questionable. I think he'll improve on it, but out of all of Romero's excellent abilities, it's maybe not his best sort of attribute, his aerial prowess. And so that's why someone like a Badiashile or Ndika, maybe a Bremer as well, would be brilliant, because all of them are absolutely menaces in the air. And that's what we need, is a center back that can defend his box, but also maybe score from these set pieces with that new set piece coach we have, Dark Sun G.
Yeah. Look, again, highlight getting in an important centre back. Then we will be able to capitalise using the big tower from the attacking set pieces, attacking corners. That'd be unbelievable. Big up, Dark Sun G.
Tottenham Gold saying we need to sell Dier and Sanchez. They are liabilities at the back over the years. Enough is enough. We need to get 2 center backs before the season starts. How many chats have we seen of that today? People really are just like, it's a very split sort of kind of, opinion in the fan base. You got to love it because we do try to unearth, Dave, these areas, in the fan base, where is it that people, maybe find themselves a bit split, where is it that, people maybe might not all see eye to eye. And, even Dermot today, Dave, on Twitter, I think he put out, a poll actually of this sort of nature, like, is really Sanchez worth keeping around? And I actually be curious to see the results, so Dermot, big up, my man.
If anyone thinks I'm harsh, I only speak. Dermot's putting out polls and everything else. He's more harsh than me.
Right away, actually, right away.
Putting out polls and everything.
Love you, Dermot. Love you, my man. Dermotron. And also, let me know the results of that later, my man. I'll check it out on Twitter. Big up, Dermotron. Good to see you in the
big
house.
up, Dermotron. Absolute legend, my man. Absolute legend. Well, guys, we'll end it there. And hopefully you all have a safe and sound evening. And we will see you all back here tomorrow. Hopefully with a new centre-back announced. That would be absolutely unbelievable. But it's highly unlikely. But regardless, as always, come on, you fucking Spurs. In Conte we trust.
Come on, you Spurs. In Conte we trust.